Hey everybody, get things situated here tonight. Good evening. Give everybody just a few minutes to jump on. Got a beautiful night here. Hard to believe it's July, 7th, whatever it is, 7th or 8th. Good evening everybody. A few more people joining here. And while we're waiting on a few others, if you all ever have a topic that you want me to talk about or research and have a conversation around on Supper with Sean, by all means let me know, and be glad to do that. Hopefully try and make this somewhat interactive and not just the topics that I want to talk about, although that is more fun generally. But certainly doing this 5 nights a week, some days the brain just isn't cooperating. Last night I skipped supper with Sean to have supper with Vaughn. Actually, Vaughn is a precision planning dealer from down south that I worked with in my days at Precision Planning, and just a great guy. And you know, we've talked about relationships here in the past, and it's one of those things that this industry is so small. You meet great people along the way. And Vaughn reached out and asked if I was in St. Louis last night, and I was, and he was coming through town, so we met up for supper. It's been about 2 years since I'd seen him, so it was great to catch up with Vaughn and chat about life and family. And you know, as you develop those relationships, you get to know them a bit more, and it's not just a business relationship, then it becomes a friendship as well. So that's what I was doing last night. Hence the reason no supper with Sean. Plus yesterday was just kind of an off day, and was really struggling with what to talk about. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about risk management, and this was a suggestion from a friend up north, and I appreciate that that little conversation tonight. But you know, as we think about, and I don't really want to make it too depressing, because we have plenty of news in the world today and in our country that's so depressing. But you know, the reality is we have to deal with depressing news at various times in our lives, whether it's the grain markets every day it goes down, or whether it's something at work or something that we're dealing with in our families. But either way, as you think about decision making under stress, and we could, I think for all practical purposes tonight, we'll talk about how being a farmer is stressful, right? We deal with commodity prices that fluctuate and have some pretty significant ranges anymore, and we have a lot of people that are funds in our marketplace that are causing fluctuations that our market didn't experience even 10 years ago. So the volatility has gone up for us as farmers. And you know, it's interesting, we could go into an organic conversation and government subsidies. Yeah, it can make for a long periscope, right? We might have to break this into 2 parts. But you know, as we think about market volatility and really how we manage risk and decision making, and as this conversation and topic got started, you know, we're thinking corn went down here. Well, we've lost $1 on it in the past week. Beans down pretty significantly. Depending on who you listen to, market's down again. Corn was up today with some news out of Brazil that was favorable, so we'll take that too. But you listen to some other people that are chart watchers, and they say that we're going to go down to $2.80, $2.90, $3. And you know, that's gosh, talk about depressing. That is depressing. So how do we manage our decisions? Because we have a crop growing in the field, corn, beans, wheat, whatever it might be. But for tonight, let's reference corn. And we have this corn growing that's worth, say, $3.40 on the cash market. And I'm trying to understand where my break even is. Now, we've talked in the past on Periscopes of how do I understand my balance sheet, my assets, my liabilities, but ultimately, how do I determine my break even point? And so I think it's important, as you look at decisions we're going to make this summer, that did I really sell 340 corn? Now maybe you didn't sell 340 corn. Hopefully you sold it when the market was on its way up. But have you truly marketed that corn? Are you using other options or future strategies to help you in your pricing and decision making? But one of the key critical points that we're going to deal with here over the next few weeks is going to be, do I apply a fungicide or not? And of course, that requires extra money. We're going to have to put a $1 per acre figure on that investment in the crop. And whether it's applying more nitrogen because we've had rain or we've had heat when we applied, or maybe after we applied our nitrogen we didn't get a rain. So did we really see the results we wanted out of that nitrogen or that additional input to the crop? Those are all considerations that we have to make that are going to increase our cost of production, right? And we're looking at the price today at $3.40. So if $3.40, whatever it is, $3.50, if you're up north, you may have a worse basis than that, and you might be really out of the market at that point. But so for the purposes, let's just consider we're at 340 corn, and we're going to try to determine, are we going to put on a fungicide? Where is our head right now? We are in a depressed state of mind. Whether we want to admit it or not, we are depressed. We've lost a lot of money. We maybe didn't sell as many bushels as we wanted to when the market rallied above $4. We didn't sell enough where we wanted to be, or where we think we ought to be based off of our current market today. Now I have to make the decision. I have stress on my crop, and I need to know whether or not I'm going to make a fungicide application. Now, in my job, I have the opportunity of working with some people from universities, one who happens to be Fred Below. And I ran into Fred at the Richard Brock conference that he had just before Commodity Classic, and have ran into him a couple other times at different meetings that I'm also attending. But you know, Fred is the guy who's the 7 wonders of corn production. And as I've gotten to talk to Fred, and I've heard him say this over and over again, and I wanted to clarify for multiple reasons, right? To A, share that knowledge with people that I talk to, but also to understand what are the decisions that I'm going to make on my farm. So Fred's thing, one of those things, is protecting the crop with fungicide. So here we are sitting, depending on where you're at in the country, we've got corn tasseling. I was just got home from St. Louis. Corn's tasseling all the way up to Springfield, Illinois, and a little bit north up at my farm in northwest Illinois. We're going to be tasseling probably over the next 2 weeks. Some of the early corn is already tasseled up there, north of Interstate 88. So we've got corn tasseling across here. We're going to have to make this decision. Do we apply fungicide or not? And Fred's theory, Fred Below, University of Illinois guy, his theory is, you know, hey, of the test I've run, and I'm paraphrasing and quoting Fred, of the test he's run, 8 out of 10 years is what most people are going to tell you you're going to win by making a fungicide application. He said, you know, here's the reality. From what he's seen, when you apply a fungicide, you're not going to win every year. Just like the hybrid we plant this year might win this year, but it's not going to win next year. And whether that's the hybrid or the variety or our biologicals that we put on or our chemicals, one thing might work this year and it's not going to work next year. So as all of us are very well aware, there are many variables in production agriculture. So we have to manage to the best of our ability. But what Fred has found is that time after time, even though we don't win every time, the average is there. And so his recommendation is, even if you win 6 out of 10 times, you're going to make enough money in the years that you win to cover the years that you don't necessarily win and break even. But here's the other part of that, is that decision making in a stressful time, if we're looking at the crop today and we're saying, you know what, I don't want to put in any more money into that crop. Fred's theory is, if you buy that fungicide in November, when you're doing all your ordering of seed, you just pay for that fungicide. You do it on an early order program, whatever you want to do, but you buy it early. That way you're committed. Because here's the deal. You make rational decisions when things are good. Even if yields aren't quite as good when we're sitting in the combine, chances are we're in a better mood than what we were before, because we actually see the fruits of our labor. We see that, we're going to be able to repay the banker. We see that things that our crop is able to be harvested and it's not laying flat on the ground. So as thinking about risk management, not from the marketing standpoint so much, but buying that input in February or in November, even February, and that's what we did. Hey, you know what? I'm going to buy my insecticide and I'm going to buy my fungicide along with it, and it's been paid for. And so there's no question for me this summer as I look at that decision, am I going to apply it or not? It's already bought. Heck yeah, I'm going to apply it. I've paid for the helicopter and I've paid for the fungicide. It's going on. So now all of a sudden I don't have to make a decision under stress, because now I know that I've got it purchased, it's going on. One less decision I have to make when I'm under stress. And when another situation in which that was really kind of played out for me, and this isn't necessarily on the farm, but a couple years ago I took my concealed carry class up in, it was a suburb of Chicago, and it was one of those things that, of course, for those of you not in Illinois requires an 8-hour class for you to take. Actually, I believe it's 16 hours. 8 hours of classroom time, and then you've got to go to the shooting range and shoot in order to get your concealed carry permit to carry here in Illinois. But one of the guys in the class was talking about another class that he had went to. And what that class required them to do is that if you wanted to concealed carry, that you needed to write down a list of what were the situations that you were going to pull that gun on somebody and be willing to take a human life. And of course, in the midst of all the news here lately of cops shooting people, that seems to be even more of a situation where you need to have situational awareness. You need to be able to make a decision under stress. But I think it was really important from the standpoint of whether it's concealing a weapon or making a decision, your brain doesn't think the same way when we're in just normal, casual conversation or in a normal environment. But that natural tendency of fight or flight changes how we think. And we don't think clearly. I don't care how great you think you can handle stress. Stress affects our body in a bunch of different ways. And so we have to be able to handle that, just like with that decision of, am I going to carry a weapon and be a concealed carry license holder? That's one decision. But managing that situation in stress when you have emotional things going on around you, when you're in a stressful situation that you don't deal with every day, those are things that impact us. And just like when the commodity prices go down and we take a buck out of the market in a hurry, we start to get emotional about that, because our livelihoods are on the line. Our families are on the line. Our health care, our living expenses, our homes, our operations are all at risk. And so it's important that you understand, how am I going to make the decision? And that's why it's always talking about making a plan, executing the plan. Make this decision early when you're not under stress. That way you know exactly what you're going to do. Bar none, no matter what, here's what I'm going to do. So as you think about that decision, whether it's in leadership, understand the situation. And if you need to take a break and step away from the situation, do that before you make a decision that might impact you in a way that you really don't want. So it's all about, how do you manage that stress? How do you think through it in a clear frame of mind? Because that's where you make the best decisions. If you do it in a stressful situation, highly intensive situation, emotional situations, if you're leading people, let them cool down. Don't let them make harsh decisions or impactful decisions when they're under stress, because it's likely to be the wrong decision. Give them time, cool off. Most generally, many decisions that we make every day don't have to be done that day. They can wait, especially if it's a stressful decision to make. So things to think about as you're marketing your crop, as we're deciding whether or not we're going to buy additional inputs for this crop, whether it's nitrogen or fungicide or other chemical applications. But those are all things we have to consider. And the best advice I can give you for tonight is, don't make that decision when you're under stress. make that decision early. If you need to write it down so you can go back to your notebook and look at it and say that's what you're going to do it. That may work for some people. It may not work for others. Others, it might be right up here. That's where your decision gets made, and that's where it gets held. But make it early. And that's why training, whether it's in concealed carry, whether it's in scuba diving and knowing how to handle stressful situations, whether it's in family life, of course, sometimes those situations come at us and we don't know what to do. But the more situations you can think through and decide early, those are going to help you along the way. So just some things to think about tonight as you think about decision making under stress and how dangerous or problematic that can be versus having that decision made early before you're really going to have to make it. Because I'm guessing most of us have seen results from fungicide in years past, and we know that we win, sometimes we lose. But you've got a history on your farm. You know how those decisions impact your farm. Make those early. Because when it's 350 corn and you're stressed, let's just put it this way, if you're at that 350 corn and you need 4 to break even, think about it. What's going to get me more dollars in my pocket? I've got to spend money to make money sometimes, and if I'm going to spend it, what am I going to spend it on? Fungicide might be that thing. So now all of a sudden, fungicide helped me gain some bushels. What did I do? I increased my bushels. My price might not have made it, but I increased my bushels because I had that decision based off of historical information, not based off of stress. So simple, it's not simple, but something to think about as you think through how do you make decisions on your farm, in your family, in leadership, if you're in leadership roles, in committees that you're involved with. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, this is a pretty hot topic. Let's calm down. Let's table this discussion for another day or another meeting or follow up with a conference call, whatever that is. But don't be afraid to stop the process and make a decision while everybody, because cooler heads prevail. That saying rings true in multiple situations, but you have got to stop and think about it, because some things you can't take back, and if you're making the wrong decisions under stress, that might be a decision that you want to take back that you can't very easily. So things to think about. Well, as somebody mentioned earlier tonight, this Periscope could have gone on for probably an hour as we talk about risk management and decision making, but definitely consider that as you think about this commodity market and the losses that we've taken here over the past week and a half, 2 weeks. But don't lose hope. You know, we always seem to find a way to farm and grow a crop and make it another year. And I'm sure there will be some opportunities for guys who have mismanaged their farms this year. But at the end of the day, we all have to learn from these situations and understand how do we manage stress, because the past 5 years we haven't seen a whole lot of stress in the ag industry. There's been some, right? Even in good times we experienced that stress. But this is just going to force us to get better at what we do and how we do it and how we manage these costs, because now you better have a pencil and know exactly what that fungicide application is going to cost. You better know what that helicopter or that airplane is going to cost. You better know how much money you've got invested in that crop. You should know what your break even is, because once you know all those things, the stress level goes down because you know where you need to be. And if you're not doing that, that's where it really matters. So things to think about tonight on risk management, Supper with Sean, and decision making under stress, and how you don't do that, hopefully. So we'll catch you tomorrow night on Supper with Sean. Have a great night.